Buenas. This is the You Live Where podcast. My name is Diego, and I've been an expat for 10 years. I know that you could Google or look up on the internet any city anywhere in the world, and there's a site that can tell you what are the top 10 cities, or what attorneys to use, or why investing into this place is better than this place, or multiple passports. And it's all really great information. But I feel, in my experience, by watching two people have a genuine conversation about the experiences they're having in that particular country can give me more insight to what it's genuinely like. So that's what I want to present to you. I'll be having discussions with expats, people who own homes overseas, and people who have been on the very road for a very long time. This week, I'm talking to a gentleman named Michael. He moved from Florida to Puerto Rico. He's going to drop a lot of gems in this interview. This kid's been all over the world, so very excited to have this conversation.
Mike, dude, thank you for being on my show, man. I'm really excited to talk to you, dude. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. It's been really fun to watch what you've been doing with it and how far you've been coming with it. So I'm glad to be a part of it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun time. Right, so let's jump into it. So what inspired you, man? How'd you go from Florida to Puerto Rico? What was the move?
Well, so originally, like my family was from here originally. Like my dad was adopted, so he didn't live here, but we always had kind of like this abstract like connection to it. So when he passed away, my brother wound up moving down here, and I wound up going on a whole journey through Central America, trying to do my own thing. But I knew I always wanted to come back here, but I just wasn't sure like how I wanted to do it. I didn't want to just kind of be like in his shadow kind of thing. So it kind of just I was always like kind of in the background. I'd like come visit like 10, 12 times throughout my life. I was down here for Hurricane Maria. I spent 3 months doing volunteer work through that, just traveling around the whole island, living without electricity, giving out food and water. And then, I started doing surf photography in the past couple of years, and various opportunities popped up where there was a house available in my brother's old neighborhood. And it was a price that I couldn't say no to, and it was a perfect location. And I felt like I kind of had the skills to kind of start doing my own thing down here and possibly have a way of living. So I got told through a text message this apartment opened up, and I said yes. And then I told my girlfriend we're moving.
All right. Wow, so you always had some type of ties with Puerto Rico. It was always somewhere in your peripheral.
Absolutely. It's always an easy trip from Florida. It's like a couple hours. Like I said, my brother's been down here for 15 years. It's a cultural experience that I kind of had big awareness of, but I didn't have that growing up, kind of like that absence of culture in that regard. So it's always something that I wanted to come down and experience the island life and kind of see what it was all about. Just to like say I did it for at least one season. Um, so
So
yeah,
you did a lot of traveling. You mentioned that you did a lot of traveling around. What'd you do? How did that work out? What was that about?
I worked for this one hard ass in Nicaragua. He was the one.
Yeah, I
No,
hear
so
you.
so originally, like I wanted to start down here, like I said, with my brother and everything. And also hostels aren't really a thing here. Even 8 or 9 years ago, however long that's been from when I started traveling, hostels just weren't a thing in Puerto Rico. Like there's Airbnbs, there's hotels, but it's hard to make money and have money down here. So I decided I'll start with Nicaragua. I had a friend who was kind of in a similar situation as me. He was living in St. Augustine. He was kind of fed up with the mundane kind of structured life that he had, and his ex-girlfriend told him about a program called Workaway, which is basically something where you can find jobs through doing like hostel work or working on a farm, and you don't get paid for it directly, but you do get a place to stay. Sometimes you get meals depending on where you're at. So I wanted to do Nika, and I wanted to leave town like then. I was like ready to go, but the rainy season was just coming up at the time, so they didn't really have a space for me for a couple months. So I kind of spaced it out, and I started in Mexico, and I stayed there for a little bit, and then I worked my way down. And kind of like the big test for me was the shuttle, because I had the job lined up in Nika, which was going to give me 3 meals a day, free place to stay. It was on the beach. Seemed like it checked all the boxes, right? But the problem is that it was a little bit out. So I'm doing like massage therapy along the way. It's what I went to school for, kind of in hostels just to get by. So I would do like an hour massage for whatever a week's worth of food costs in Mexico. Um, so I did that in combination with the hostel work. I did that for about a month. And then I used the last of my money to buy a shuttle, which went from Antigua, Guatemala to Leon, Nicaragua. But I didn't know the shuttle was literally 17 hours long, and a long shuttle. Hey, and they missold me on the Wi-Fi. They told me that that bus was going to have Wi-Fi. It did not. They oversold the bus. They didn't have any Wi-Fi, so I'm just like crammed in the back for like 17 hours. But the real test for me was I'm in Antigua, and actually right before that, I was coming through Mexico right when Hurricane Patricia was hitting, which at the time was the biggest hurricane that was projected to hit the Americas in God knows how long. I cat scratching the board, sorry. So what I didn't know about traveling through countries was that you also have border pay. Like you have to pay it across the border. You have to, So I didn't really factor that in. I kind of just went in. I brought $600 with me, and I was like, I'm going to see how long that's going to take me. However much $600 gets me, that's how long I'm going to last for.
How long did that last?
About 5 or 6 months, believe it or not. It was
right.
rough.
So the workaway program, though, really helped that along for you.
It did, but
and it gave you a groundwork of the skills to pull off whatever you're doing now.
Yeah, it did. It kind of that willingness, that knowingness and willingness to just put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, and whatever happens, happens. Because I had to last for a couple days before my shuttle, and I was literally walking into like random hostels and being like, "Hey, like I'm here to do chair massage, whatever you want to give me, like that's what I'll take." And one time I got paid in an avocado, and that's how the name Work for Avocados came to be, because that was my dinner for that day. I wound up making it to Nika. I had worked at that job for 3 or 4 months, and I was instantly hooked. I like went home, and then for like about a year or two, I just kept going back and forth. I would like work at a restaurant that was willing to take me back for sometimes a couple weeks, and then I'd be right back out the door.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you traveled a whole lot plotting all on doing this thing in Puerto Rico, huh?
I did, yeah. Like I said, I didn't know that this would eventually be the main goal. I knew I wanted to go lay down. I knew I wanted to be here one day, but I was like, in the meantime, like this is cool. Like I'm doing my own thing. Like I kind of wanted to start my own blueprint. I didn't know what that blueprint was going to be, but I knew whatever I was doing, like it was my own. So I brought a skateboard with me, a backpack, the old GoPro, and that was my life, man. Just whatever fit in that small backpack is all I had.
Dope. Moving to Puerto Rico. Was that tough? Did you pack up a ton of shit? What'd you take with you when you went to Puerto Rico?
So I would say the hardest part was getting the dogs and the car shipped down. For my own for my own personal carry-on, I would say it was definitely the most I ever traveled with, which was about 3 bags.
Okay.
One bag had I packed up a computer monitor. That was probably the biggest thing. And I wasn't sure how that was going to work, but I wrapped it up in a blanket, brought down the computer, brought down 2 surfboards, which, they can definitely add up. And all my bags were overweight. And I got really lucky because when I'm at the check-in station, the guy who was, checking in my bags or whatever at the front gate, he wound up being Puerto Rican. And I told him, I was like, yeah, man, like I'm trying to move to the island. And then once he heard that, he's like, oh, bro, like we're going to make this work. So for like 30 minutes, he's like telling me, he's like, your bag's at this weight. He's like, take this much out, put this in this bag. He's like, I can let these 10 pounds
Wow,
go.
you won the lottery, man. Homie was he helped you out.
He really helped me out. So that was awesome. The hard part was shipping the dogs and the car down, because that took a whole process. Like we had to drive from North Florida to South Florida, which is about 6 or 7 hours, because they only ship the dogs out from there onto a cargo flight, which then shipped them to San Juan, which I'm on the west side of the island. San Juan's all the way on the east side of the island.
Okay.
So that took like another day and a half. Yeah. So we had to like get an Airbnb in Miami. We had to ship the car to, we had to ship the dogs down. I had to be there before they got there. And then of course, the airlines are completely separate schedules. So I'm in the airport parking lot for like 9 hours waiting for the dogs because I don't want to spend money just on an Airbnb for
Yeah.
4 hours, you know? Um, so that and the dog, that and the car were definitely the hardest things, I would say.
Okay. Wow. What were your first impressions of Puerto Rico living there as opposed to just being like when you dropped in prior?
I would say that, like, definitely the level of Spanish, because when I first came down here and I was visiting, I knew it was Spanish, but I didn't really have like a solid grasp on the language. Traveling through like Nicaragua and Colombia and things like that, I picked up along the way, which I didn't really get to put too much into practice during my visits. But moving down here, it was almost like a completely different language. Like just there's so many discrepancies and differences on so many words that even to this day, I'm just like I'm learning new things all the time. Which some things are Americanized in terms, and some things are just completely different words.
Okay.
Um, so that was a big thing. I would say, I'd say Latin people in general, like it's a very like warm, welcoming culture. Um, but I think the biggest thing is you just always want to be able to like give more than you take, and I think that really goes a long way.
There you go. Good gem. Um, so what do you do? What's your work like? What are you up to now? You said you're a photographer, you're hustling. What are you doing?
So full time, I am a in water surf photographer. That is about 90% of like what I do. So I swim out at local surf breaks with a camera and a water housing. I got a helmet on. I have fins, and I swim out in the waves wherever the most people are. I take photos of everybody, and then I contact them afterwards and present galleries to them online. Like, here's a link to all the photos I have of you. This photo, one photo is this much, three are this much, 10 are this much, and this is how much for the gallery. Um, so that I would say that's my bread and butter.
Okay.
Um, it's definitely a lot trying to like coordinate all of that. I get lucky sometimes, and I've been getting more and more private sessions, which are a bit more straightforward. I don't have to try to hunt people down or find things. It's kind of like all in that one session. But those are basically my two main sources of income. My girlfriend does work on a horse farm doing training horses and riders and stuff like that. So that kind of helps a little bit with groceries and whatnot. But I would definitely say 90% of like what we do is through the surf, just literally surf photography.
Wow, man. So that's dope. It's kind of entrepreneurial. You went down there and busted your own gig out.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things. Like I've always been a server in the restaurant industry, so I've always been fond of the idea that your income should be based on how well you produce or like what you're able to like achieve more of. There's something like this, it worked out perfectly because it's however much I'm willing to put in. A lot of times, what I get out. It's feast or famine. Sometimes like I don't make money for like a week or so, and then I might have a really good 2 weeks.
Got it.
But either way, it all comes down to me at the end. It's like, am I willing to wake up at 4 or 5 a.m., walk the dogs, clean everything, get to the local break by 7, be out there for 4 or 5 hours, hunt people down, edit photos, send out galleries. Sometimes it takes them like weeks to get back to me if they want them or not. But I do love doing it because it's just I
There
feel
you
like
go.
so much more responsible for my own income and what I'm able to do.
Okay, there you go. So is that's what your typical day looks like as an expat,
Yeah,
essentially?
I mean, it's definitely a unique kind of job in that sense. Like, I know a lot of people don't have that luxury in that sense. Like, and I'm not like, I feel like I'm doing fairly well. Like, I'm able to like eat and whatnot down here. I'm not like rich by any means or killing it or anything like that. But as far as being a surf photographer in 2025 and
Living on the
being able to
beach.
live in, like it's pretty crazy. It's wild
Yeah.
to think about. So every day I wake up and I'm just, how can I get to it? What's the next thing that we can do? Um, that's the bulk of my day. So I'll go out early in the morning. I usually get done around like 10 or 11, come back, edit photos. Sometimes it's kind of time sensitive where if it's like a big day of swell, you might have other photographers out there shooting
Okay.
from the beach or something. So you kind of want to present your photos before anyone else can. And then like a lot of what I'll do too is I'll take the best photos and I'll put those on Instagram. And if I don't know who the people are, a lot of times I learn through people tagging them or it just being shared. Go like, oh, that's me, or like, oh, that's also my friend. Like,
Shit.
you have him. So
Social media
a
is
lot of my
dope.
yeah, so a lot of it's done through social media in that sense. I'm able to present a lot of my images and be creative through social media in that aspect.
Dope. Would you say that the work thing has been your biggest challenge in Puerto Rico, living there, or is there anything else?
I mean, I would probably say so. Like it's his own cultural hardships where you learn to like adapt and things
Like
are
what?
definitely different in senses. But I would say that is the hardest part for me is kind of just waking up every day and getting to it. Like I've been very fortunate that I kind of had a door in the community with my brother being down here. So I wasn't a complete stranger. Like people knew me from like the hurricane relief work. Like I had friends. That's how I was able to find this apartment in the first place. So a lot of things in that sense, I've been able to kind of get a little bit of a head start on.
Okay. All right. So culturally though, you've been good. No crazy stuff. Nothing popped out at you. Anything shock you? Culture shock?
No,
No. Well, bro,
I
you've been
would
all
say,
over the world. You've
like I
seen a
said, I
lot
would
of
say
Latin
like
America.
I would say I haven't seen like too many things that are like too like obscure to me like at this point. Anything that's like super crazy in that
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I would say the language, like the type of Spanish is definitely like a big difference. Relearning that. Um, I would say like the biggest cultural difference compared to like other Latin countries. Other than that, it's a small one, but to me, like it's a big deal. It's like whenever you walk into like a restaurant or something and you're walking by people, everyone says "buen provecho" to each other, like
Yeah.
complete strangers.
Yeah.
Like you walk past, like enjoy your meal, which not every place has that. And to me, it's just kind of that
In New
small
York, we
little bit
say
of
choke and die.
I don't,
In New
joking.
York,
Yeah,
in New York, it's like choke and die, dude. Don't talk to me.
In Florida, we say move away. Yeah, I get it.
How's your social life? Do you go out much? Are you hanging out? Have you made friends while you've been there? Any of that?
I'm. It's weird because I'm wake up so early and I'm like swimming for like 3 or 4 hours a day sometimes. So like I definitely know people. I've definitely gotten more friends. I'm super early to bed, man. Like I'm in bed by like 8 o'clock if I can be. Like so
Yeah.
like a lot of times like I'll get invited to go out. I really have to pick my battles. Like I'll go out and film my friends if they're like playing like a music gig or something like that. Make like a random appearance if they're playing at 9. Um, Socially, like I made more friends like in the water. One thing that one of my friends pointed out to me was that in Puerto Rico, well, we'll start with the U.S. Like in the U.S., it's like you almost make friends with someone and then they try to do business with you. But kind of here, it's almost like you're expected to do business first, and then if that works, then you can become friends with people.
That's a good way to look at shit, though, huh?
That kind of makes any sense. So,
All right.
the past few weeks, I've gotten really involved in, there's a huge thing going on right now in Rincon, which is like the most well-known area of the West Side as far as surfing. There's been a lot of protests going on over the development of like a bike path and a seawall that involves it's a bunch of stuff, but I've been really gotten into the community even more, doing work through that, just coming up and just showing photos. So like taking photos of like the whole thing. So I've gotten to know people a lot more that way also, just kind of volunteering my time and just kind of putting myself out there.
Yeah, you were there. I remember we've been friends for a while, and I remember when you went and worked the hurricane relief there. I don't remember what the name of the hurricane is right now, but I remember that you went there. Didn't you meet Michael Jackson's kid?
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
actually.
right. Like I'm not
Yeah,
fucking
so we
this up,
were,
right? Like, yeah, you were there. Tell me about
yeah,
that. What?
no, yeah. I look, I didn't talk to her very much. I remember she definitely seemed to have a thing for my brother at the time. But he was
Uh,
like, no. But yeah, she was giving out backpacks and stuff like that at the airport. We didn't like talk very much. Don't quote me on that, by the way. I don't want to say that like she.
Y'all were kicking it. She gave you a ride to the
Yeah,
airport. I know how the story goes.
yeah. I think like as a volunteer group, we all have lunch together. So like, I did meet her through that. We a lot of our group work was actually funded and financed by Daddy Yankee, who I didn't
Uh,
get to meet directly, but I met a lot of like his people.
but you've done a
And
lot of social group. What I'm getting at is that you've helped a lot of different causes in Puerto Rico. You've been there for a lot.
yeah, absolutely. Like I try to, because I feel like, it's I think social currency is like a big thing. I think you told me that years ago, and that's something that's always like stuck with me. And between that and like a natural desire to kind of want to help out and kind of have that cultural, I guess, link you could say, it's always been an important thing to me. Like I think I left Fort Maria like the day after it happened. I was like the only one on the flight there. But yeah, I was down for several months just traveling around the island. We were giving out food and water. So community has always been a big thing for me in that sense. And
Has it opened
I
your
think
eyes? Has it changed you? You being from the States and seeing how things operate, going to Puerto Rico and helping out and seeing these types of things firsthand, do you think it had an impact on you?
I
Has it
would
made you
definitely
see
say
things
that.
differently?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I would say that like I've had to be more extroverted in that sense because, I think sometimes if you're shy, it can almost be interpreted as standoffish, which is
Okay.
something like I had to learn. I think I was at your place. That was actually another big lesson I learned. And I was talking to someone who's like, you don't talk very much. It seems like you don't like us. And I was like, oh. It was one of Myron's friends. I remember saying, I was like, oh man, I'm like, I don't want that to be like interpreted that way. So like, kind of putting myself out there, um, and being down here, I think I've become a bit more extroverted because I want to show that like willingness to be here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Um, so you've been around the country, you said you've traveled a lot around the country. What's your
I've traveled a good amount.
what's your favorite, obviously besides where you live, but what would be your favorite spot? What would you tell people to check out? Kind of an off the beaten path thing, though, now that you're a
Uh,
local.
I would say right now there's this place called LA. It's a pig roast place, and I gotta think of the name of it right now. So I want to say I can't even think of the name of it right now, but it's in Rincon and it's
Okay.
in the mountains.
Ah,
Um, so it's a pig roast place. They're only open on Saturdays, but it's like in the valley of the mountains, and the dude cooks like six pigs like throughout the day. There's like all his own sides, but it's like in a valley, and it's just like the coolest thing to me. Like going up there because one thing like I have noticed is that the smaller of a place that you're living in, for a lot of people living there, traveling has such a different. How do I put this? Traveling is a lot different in terms of time. Like for me and for anyone else coming from the States, where you're like, oh, it's 30 minutes away. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? But for a lot of people, when they're in a place like this, like island, like people on the beach don't go to the mountains. A lot of people in the mountains never go. And you're like, it's right there. And they're like, dude, it's like an hour away. And you're like, bro, like an hour away from here is literally halfway across the island. Like you can make it from one side of the island to the other in like less than 4 hours for like the whole place. So I would say that's kind of like just like a different perspective of how traveling works here.
Okay. What advice would you consider? What would you give to somebody, man? Somebody's coming along and they're like, "Hey, Mike, I'm thinking about doing what I would like to check out Puerto Rico, go live there for a while."
I would say definitely maybe come for a season first. You have to be prepared to be comfortable with the uncomfortable because we lose electricity all the time. You have to have a lot of patience for a lot of things. You know, the one thing someone pointed out that like you don't really think about, it's like gas stations. Like in the States, pull out your phone, Apple Pay at the pump. You know what I mean? Credit card, you pay right there. We don't have that here. Like you have to go inside. You have to pay. Like you got to wait in line. A lot of times you'll be driving along the road and people just stop in the middle of the road to have a conversation. Um, so you just gotta be really patient with like things like that. It's definitely a cultural shock in that sense, you know. Selection's a lot more limited. There's like one place I can think of where you can get cold brew coffee, which is like a Sam's Club, anything like that. It's like, but I would say also, you know, put yourself out there to learn Spanish. I don't think anyone expects people coming in to like be perfectly fluent with it, but I do think it's a big sign of respect to be willing to try to put yourself out there. Um, a lot of people unfortunately come down here and it is kind of like a spring break kind of place. You know, it's an easy flight from Florida. It's an easy flight from Miami. They come down for a week. It's like they just party it up, have no respect for anything else that's going on. It's just kind of like a party trip. So I think just be willing to be mindful, know that you're not going to like nail every single cultural custom, but like being respectful goes a long way. Learning the Spanish, or at least trying to speak it, goes a long way. I would say in a lot of places, kind of learn the history of the place, and not only the history of it, but you know, in the instance of someone coming from the state's history with that place. You know, how they might have come to be either colonized or whatever their kind of military involvement was, because it does play a huge part in how people perceive you coming in, you know.
Okay.
So a lot of places in Latin America, there's a very complicated history with the states, and that's not to like trash the states, but I think it is
Something to be
important
aware
to
of.
know, something to be aware of and understand where some animosity, or maybe just like, I don't want to say like, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like just being aware, you know?
Word. So, if you could go back in time and you could tell yourself or teach yourself one thing before making this trip, what would it be? What would you tell yourself?
Probably learn Puerto Rican Spanish.
Spanish is a big thing, huh?
Yeah, especially here, man. Like it's just so different. Like it's like I said, I really haven't had many like stumbling blocks. Like I've been fortunate to be in enough circumstances and situations where I'm pretty comfortable being uncomfortable.
Okay.
I would say like by far that's the biggest one. You know, it goes a long way. It makes everything so much easier.
Yo, and Puerto Ricans have a unique Spanish.
Did everything. It's like from even for the word for, like everywhere else it's like, oh, pardon me. Like here it's pa me. Like they drop that. There's no D a lot of times, you know. In a lot of things. Like R's they pronounce as L's a lot of times.
Yeah,
So like Puerto Rico is like more often how it's pronounced.
it's weird.
Certain things, it's weird. It's a lot different. I want to say it's, you know, it's a combination of like of an African language because it comes from the Caribbean side,
Okay.
from the Taino, stuff like that. So it really is like a big melting pot of everything.
Okay.
So for a lot, I really have had to go back, but I would say learning the language makes everything so much easier. Um, I would say a lot of people are welcoming. A lot of times, you know, there's assholes everywhere in the world, uh, but there's not There's not, they're very welcoming people. I would say most of my any small issues I've ever had have been with from other people who wound up being from Florida.
Yeah, I hear that. I get that. Yeah,
Yeah, we're
I get
we're
that.
everywhere. I'm sorry. I
The
apologize.
Florida man's everywhere.
In fact, I actually called someone out one time. He was trying to tell me something. I was like, "Are you from Florida?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "You have the same accent I do." I was like, "You're from Florida, aren't you?" He was like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, we can
Whoosh.
stop this conversation."
Do you ever get homesick?
For very few things, I miss my family.
Okay.
That is a big thing. Like my mom, my sister, and whatnot. Like, unfortunately, my brother lives here. Um, I would say the things that I miss are kind of accessibility, convenience, but that's not necessarily something that's good per se. In some instances it's good, but for my overall well-being, like I used to eat out 3 or 4 times a day, always running to the gas station, getting sodas, snacks, things like that. So in that sense, like I've had to eliminate a lot of that. I do miss I miss fishing, which a lot of people are surprised to hear that because there's such good fishing around here. But like here, you gotta like get on a boat. You gotta like, you gotta do everything. Like I miss in Florida, you were able to just like go on the beach and I could just like cast out a line and just sit there. You know what I mean? And you'd be pretty successful. Here, it's like there's so much reef and rocks and things like that like you don't get that. So like I have friends that I miss, of course. I have family that I miss. St. Augustine's an awesome place. It's where I come from originally. But as far as like things that I enjoy to do, like by far, like it surpasses everything.
All right. Word, word.
I'll tell you what I do miss.
All right.
All right. So there is really good food here, right? I found like the best pizza I've ever had in my life. I found the best ramen I've ever had in my life. But certain things haven't quite made their way into my area yet. That's like of a higher quality. Um, Sushi.
You don't
I
have
haven't had.
sushi?
There's some around, but it's not. Haven't found really good sushi. So like any of them that recommended to me, like in Aguadilla, which is a bit far away, it's like 40 minutes. It's not super far, but like I've heard there is a place. I haven't had sushi in 8 months, and like I know.
I have a thing with
Uh,
sushi. I do. I learned to eat sushi here over the last 10 years that I've been living here, man. But I I can't believe how into it I am. Like after a few weeks, if I don't have some sushi, I'm like, wait, I think I need something. I'm missing something in life right now. You know what I mean? It
it's
makes
surprising, but the amount of there's not much. It's hard to find fresh fish around here. Like you can find it, but like it's not as like abundant as you would. It's not as abundant as you would imagine it to be for like how close we are to the water. Like it's a hard thing to find. I don't know if it's like kind of like an Idaho thing where like they all get like exported. You know what I mean?
right.
Like like Idaho potatoes or whatnot.
Well, I think
Um,
that happens here in Nicaragua. It's really hard to find like certain types of tobacco because all of their great. It's a top shelf tobacco that they have here, but they ship all that shit. Like you can't find pipe tobacco. They ship it all out.
I believe it. Yeah, we get a lot of y'all's ground beef.
Do
I
you?
see that. Yeah, like in the stores all the time. It's like hard to. They have it, but a lot of the ground beef you see in like the stores is like product of Nicaragua.
Yeah, we do good. We do good meat here. Yeah, yeah. I was in Puerto Rico with Morgan, my wife, Morgan, and she got sick. She brought chikungunya from here to there. And of course, we're the only fucking people in the country with the goddamn disease. So like the CDC fell in on the hospital. It was like a thing, man. But I remember
Yeah.
I had to go to Walgreens to get something for her. And I remember there being a ton of shit in Walgreens, man. You got like a real Walgreens. I got culture shocked in Walgreens because in Nicaragua, you've been here, man. We have like toothpaste. You have Colgate and Crest, and that's it. And in fucking Walgreens over there, man, I was on that wall. That wall stretched for miles of different toothpastes and different flavors and types. It was crazy.
Oh,
You
you
got
guys were in San Juan, right?
we were all the way north and south. Sorry, south point of the island. What's down there? Nice hotel, Hilton, Ponce.
Oh, in Ponce. Okay.
I think that's where we were, but we did some traveling. We did move around the island a little bit.
I've noticed that the big ports is like I know there's an enormous Walgreens in San Juan right across from like where the cruise ships dock, and it's like
Legit.
Walgreens. Yeah, it's like
Do you get any of that over on your isle? Any of the big cruise ships come in or any of that stuff?
we don't have any cruise ships over here. I'm sure that they're trying to find a way how to get them over here. That's a whole different thing. But we got a Walgreens. It's like 30 minutes away from us.
Okay.
We got a T Max. It's about 30 minutes away from us. So like we're kind of like we're right outside of Aguadilla, which is kind of like the big city on this side of the coast.
So your area is more like a suburban type thing?
Kind
Farming?
of. I'm kind of like in the middle because I'm in the middle of like two main places. So it's like Aguadilla is like north of us, and then like
Okay.
Rincon is like south of us, and we're
Okay.
kind of like right in the middle.
So you get
almost.
that overflow?
Yeah, so like it's one main road that like goes through the whole thing. So it's easy to get to both places. We don't get a lot of traffic that stops through this area. Um, there's not much like commercially going. It's starting to change. You know, like there's a downtown area. I was talking to the pizza guy the other night. He's like, my rent's skyrocketing. It's like, no, bro, you're the bro. That's the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
If Morgan heard you say that, man, she's from New Jersey. You should jump across this TV, man. She takes her pizza passionately.
Yeah. He's a New York Rican, so he knows how to make pizza.
Oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense. A New York Rican there. Yeah. That was my experience with Puerto Ricans. I grew up in the Northeast. So I grew up with Puerto Ricans my whole life. You know, so there's a town called Perth Amboy in New Jersey, and it's predominantly Puerto Rican. And when I was in Puerto Rico, I just was surprised at how much I thought I was in Perth Amboy. Like they were even. It was crazy. Yeah. Word, man. So that's it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. It was you gave us a lot of
Yeah,
meat
dude.
there, man. Thank you, dude.
If you want to follow any of my photography work and anything that's going on here in the life of Puerto Rico, you can find me at Work for Avocados. It's all one word. Instagram, Facebook, I'm on everything. So that's the easiest way to find me. You can find the surf photography, water shots, whale pictures, everything.
Awesome, man. All right, word. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother.
Of course, man. Looking forward to seeing you again.
Michael, man, wow, dude, thank you so much for all that insight, dude. That's amazing. I send you positive vibes. I wish you the very best, man. I hope it always works out for you. To my guests at home, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If in the future you see something or you want me to ask one of my guests something in the future, let me know. Give me a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks.